Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Serialuzal. Thanks for clicking. Remember when this guy over here was scary?
Look at you! Look at the Sigmas you've become! Look at how Elriz you are! How skimmity toilet you are! You are woke among sussy soy jacks! I gave you cats in Ohio!
William Afton is one of, if not the most drastically changed written character in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, going from a serial killer that had so much mystery and intimidation within the community to a complete joke that gets roped back in again and again for money and YouTuber reactions.
Bunny! Bunny! It's William Afton! William Afton! Oh my god! Oh my god!
While there are not too many variations of the character that are quote-unquote official, they are all rather quite different from each other. So I'm going to be ranking the versions of the character, and I'm going to be trying my best not to be biased and speak with an objective viewpoint. Yeah, that's not going to happen, it's FNAF. But if any of you guys have any different opinions on the ranking by the end of the video, then let me know in the comments. Before we get started, please be sure to subscribe to the channel so that we can hit 10k sub.
Light work, no reaction. Light work, no reaction.
Ooh. Okay, it's got a little kick. Oh. Okay.
I mean 20k subs by the end of the year. Also, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it so it can be reached out to more people. You alone can indeed make a difference. So with that being said, let's start from oldest to newest. From my memory. First up. Despite FNAF 1 being the impactful introduction of the series that it is, not much has actually been given to us in terms of the character that started all this in the first place. Scott Cawthon thought that this would be just another one-off game that would end up a failure like The Desolate Hope or Chippers. Now he's out here directing movies about haunted robots made for kids. Bro sentenced himself to eternal torment. Might as well be another Springtrap. Well, we know where to put him on the list. But since the game became the crack and cocaine of the internet, Scott expanded the story and the person behind the murders mentioned, by making him appear in minigames in the second game. Since there was so little known, everyone was disturbed from the character, as he only came off as some weird man that lurked in the shadows and took the lives of innocent children. The original trilogy was by far the scariest Afton has ever been and will ever be, because he stood his ground as a completed character from the third entry. But before that, his mysterious aura from his lack of info made him a disturbing force that would catch anyone off guard back in the day. So we have our first S tier, but if we thought that it could not get better back then we clearly were not ready for what was to come. Because of FNAF 2 being a prequel to the original, people had no idea where the story was going to go for FNAF 3, until it released, as it's revealed to take place 30 years after FNAF 1, as all the characters have withered away to barely anything. And that's all that's left is technically a single animatronic, where you face him on a one-on-one in what was supposed to be a final confrontation. We do not learn the identity of this character until the end of the week, where we see Purple Guy tear the FNAF 1 animatronics apart until he hides himself into the suit until the suit makes him do a little dance. After this, he was left in the back room for 30 years and ends up being just another one of his creations, Springtrap. He was living such an ironic existence, where he created so many murderous machines because of his own actions, until one day his own actions ended up turning him into just another murderous machine of his making. He was an amazing written variation, and he's the only variation that actually completes the character to a perfect degree. So that's another S tier on there. And that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, because that's it. The series ended on a perfect trilogy. William Afton's a perfect character. There's no way they could ruin him, right? Come on. Why would they ruin him? When the series was in a state of confusion, there was a book of the games published. FNAF: The Silver Eyes. I actually didn't pay much mind to it, as I only read the trilogy recently since I'm more into graphic novels. I like the funny pictures. Without getting too into the main story, Purple Guy chooses to go undercover as Mr. Dave, a security guard who looks after an abandoned mall that was built over the pizzeria, luring people over to the location, then dressing up in the Spring Bonnie suit to commit more murders and kidnappings. For those who have followed the channel for a long time, you might know that Mr. Dave is my most favorite version of the character. He always comes off as a deranged lunatic who hides himself away and uses any form of communication to manipulate his victims. He caught the main group trying to enter the mall, but instead of doing his job, he decided to accept their request of checking the place out one more time. Of course, he obviously wasn't doing it for them, as when something goes wrong, he immediately puts on his suit and kidnaps Carlton. In the next cut, he explains how springlocks work as he reveals he survived a springlock incident before. I don't know why he didn't just have the springlocks taken out after that. Look guys, I never said this character was smart. So then he catches Charlie, but then she pulls one of the spring locks on the back of his mask, and his brain ends up being ground beef. I love the way where he only talks about his actions is when he has the mask on. Like it's a sense of escapism. This version is just genuinely crazy, and I love him for it. He actually had the whole story building up to be the antagonist. Dare I say he's the only Purple Guy to have his story complete in terms of a narrative. Until the next 2 books came out and he was forever ruined, but this one specifically is also an S. I hope you guys are having a good time because we're done with the S ranks and he's never going to be this cool ever again. Imagine a name, just someone having a name, and someone just instantly being given a name that, and a sprinkle of background from one cutscene, completely ruining the image of a character. And I know an example, alright? William Afton. The problem of this cutscene from the start of Sister Location that reveals this is that it is confirmed that a MatPat theory that he made from the books are a good source of information for the missing blanks of the games are now being confirmed real.
She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream.
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
Ah! Yeah! Nailed it already! Sorry, I'm really enthusiastic about that.
So now, because of this cutscene, we are now living in an era of FNAF where people religiously study this series by reading book after book after book, meaning that if you didn't read them and you make a theory, people will hop on the chat and go,
The fuck did you say, boy? I'm gonna kick your ass.
And also, what this cutscene did actually revealed that instead of having William being a mysterious serial killer that can realistically exist, just turns out to be a businessman who owns a company, who builds super advanced machines in the 80s. Okay, but why though? Because of that lore dump, everything we thought about the character gets turned over its head, and we get something that's so mid and confusing in comparison. He has a family, he comes back as Springtrap in the Twisted Ones, he acts as a cartoon villain, and then he just gets stupider and stupider from that point. Where did it all go wrong? Well, at least his initial ending is still peak, and we don't have to... Okay, so for some pointless reason, Springtrap is revealed to have survived the FNAF 3 fire and is on the loose in town. And then he gets his hand on a random 12-year-old's Halloween cosplay, and his design stays like this for the rest of the game. There's nothing about this design I can say that hasn't already been said, he just looks bad. But in terms of execution, he was actually handled pretty well. He's a threat in almost the entire game, and has characters in the story that actively try to have him killed off, until one of them sacrifices himself along with the other characters to finally kill this man once and for all, and send him down to the darkest pits of Just let me live, bro! Just let me live! Okay, so I guess we aren't taking this seriously anymore, so I guess I won't either. FNAF 7 drops and it reveals that all the previous 6 games were just video games in universe, so everything we loved about the series was fake. Okay, thanks. Then Afton comes back again as a virus who tries to take over someone's body and control them to escape the game, but he gets outsmarted and becomes a plushie. But wait, there's more. He actually ends up controlling the person, kinda, and they become one of the worst fictional villains ever made. But then in a non-canon ending, he wakes up as Springtrap, corny-ass name, in the same location he should have died at, under the big new Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex, with the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the franchise, even though the original owner died, and we still don't know who owns it in the present. So the place underneath gets burned down and Afton tries to escape, but he gets raped by the blob, but it's not canon, so it doesn't matter. What was the point of this? He definitely does have my favorite design, though. But wait! There's more! Because during all of that, there was a mimic endoskeleton who was delivered to the Pizzaplex beforehand. He ends up copying William to become Glitchtrap in the first place. Kinda, maybe, I don't know. Something about a tiger head in a tree. But wait! There's more! Because we love more! More FNAF! More FNAF! More Purple Guy! More Freddy Fazbear going Glitchtrap gets revealed to still be alive in Help Wanted 2 after the events in Security Breach, even though in that same game, he gets killed by Vanny before that. Oh, and remember the books? Don't need to pay attention to those since Afton comes back as a giant rabbit man made out of machine and animatronic parts. I don't know, and I don't care. It is absolute nonsense, and it makes not a single neuron of sense. One of my favorite villains in fiction has been ruined and torn apart in front of my eyes, and there was nothing I could do about it. So we have one more version to discuss. While this one isn't S-tier worthy, I was very impressed with how he was portrayed. This William Afton is featured in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which by the way, I thought this movie was very good. And I do have it in my top 5. I'm not saying it was something that everyone would enjoy, but I was left 100% satisfied. I'm still willing to admit its faults though, and some of those faults go to how William Afton was laid out in this. William Afton goes under an alias known as Steve Raglan. $10 says I butchered that. He hires Mike to work at the pizzeria, and for some reason he does nothing until the end of the film. Despite him being so important, we got nothing in between, and it made him feel kinda underused and like he had some sort of wasted potential. Don't get me wrong, I loved the ending when he creeped around the corner in the climax, but it did feel kind of out of nowhere, because it was out of nowhere. There was zero build up to this moment, it just felt kinda random. The way he says I always come back before putting the mask on was kinda cool to someone like me, but I can understand why some people said it was absolutely corny. But despite those issues, he had some great moments in the film, and they made him the best iteration out of any of this stuff that we have gotten in recent years. I genuinely haven't enjoyed William Afton as a character like this for a long time, and seeing that movie on opening day brought the light back into my love for the franchise. The second movie is being worked on, and even though we have to wait over a year, I can't wait to see what role this character plays if he makes an appearance. If any of you guys disagree, I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry I was very poor in explaining why I put the last few in these slots without proper explanation, but the way this story has become more and more of a mess, I genuinely do not wish to talk about it more than I have to. William Afton is a character who started out amazing, but then just got stupider and stupider the more the story goes on. Even though this franchise is my favorite because of its history with me on a personal level, I'd be lying if I said that this story had any logical senses of consistency anymore. Making this video at the time I had was a massive struggle, so if you could like the video, then I would greatly appreciate it. Q&A video is coming sometime within the next few weeks, so be on the lookout. Take care now. Love y'all.